Hi there, traders. This is Brad Gibble with the FX Market Insight for the 1st of November. All right, a little bit of a delay getting the FX Insight out, but let's just crack into it. Now, we've just had some data out today, some trade balance numbers, a little bit positive for the Aussie dollar, so that's sort of pushed things higher. But what we have seen is, I think the real move here, it's a bit twofold. We've seen also the Kiwi shoot to the top side. Now, I think that's more around the result on the equity markets. Okay, we've had, and also the yuan appreciating. First time it's sort of drifted lower from this sort of hourly support or uptrend. It's now sort of down almost a couple of 100 points or 100 points, and that's going to put that yuan appreciation puts further upside pressure on the Aussie and Kiwi. So a bit of data, a bit of equities, and also a stronger yuan. Now, which one's leading which, I'm not exactly sure, but what we are certain is all the concerns, even from a couple of days ago with regards, trade issues, global growth, that up move again in the equity markets, and I'll show you that in a second, is enough for traders to jump out of dollar yen. Now, what we've been seeing a little bit of negative sentiment on the euro, but we did see a little bit of robust CPI numbers. Now, that's put a little bit of an underlying bid turn in the euro, and you can see it's breaking back above that, it's a bit of a medium to long-term sort of support line down here, just above 113.30. So it's back above there. It gives the euro a bit of a chance, and this may also be partly due to the sterling shooting higher as expected after another report came out saying Brexit deal was almost done. This is almost like comic. And in saying that, I actually had a trendline trade set up here on sterling waiting for this break. Unfortunately for me, there was one report where it came out and then stalled and went back down. I got set on that one and ended up just dropping a bit of cash. And then, you know what? The real report comes out, shoots up 70 points, and there's some cash there. So a little bit of one of those conundrums to try and sort of sneak some cash out of sterling, but Brexit's still playing a bit of havoc. Now, with that, there's reports out that some people or analysts are saying once the Brexit deal's done, sterling will rally 5%. So that should put it back up, around 132. So just be aware the market is looking for a higher sterling. Now, across the board here, just coming back to the majors, if I just clear this, we are starting to see some breaks, against that current US dollar run. Now, dollar yen is back down into the range. We've had a bit of a false break down here on the euro. Even still, I still like the euro lower, and a break higher here in sterling, and that's sort of seen a bit of a reversal, only short term at this stage in dollar CAD. In saying that, oil is still falling, so that should move to a higher dollar CAD. Now, let me just bring it over here to the US dollar to check out what's going on there. As you can see, I'm just having a bit of an issue there with my news service, but the dollar index still in a nice steady uptrend, but we are coming up to a major support line just below 96, sort of 80. Okay, so just keep an eye on this. It is a bit oversold at the moment, and this is where today's data, the ISM manufacturing numbers, will come into play for sure. Here's the dollar yuan, right? So as you can see, it's probably the first time in a bit this steady uptrend. It's been weakening, and then all of a sudden hits 98, and we're back down 96 and a half, or was, so down 150 points. It's sort of just hanging around. This will probably keep traders on edge because there's potential for it to drop at least 10 cents if the People's Bank of China get involved. US equity markets, this is the sort of positive tone that you're getting from economic growth, or the prospects for economic growth. This is where that is reflected in the equity markets, all right? So just be aware of that. Now, this takes us into sort of trading today. So you can see the majors, they're starting to sort of jostle about. There's a bit of activity across the board. Now, if you come into the MyFX Trading Hub, actually, I'll just come down to the sentiment at this stage. I see no change really in the major sentiment across the board. Most of these currencies, if I just change colours there, so you've got sterling, Aussie, Kiwi, dollar yen, and dollar CAD, still trading sideways. There's a bit of a shift in the hourly charts from up, down, but euro still, to me, in a bearish mode. The US dollar index at this point, if it keeps breaking lower, well, that will change. But at this stage, I've still got the sentiment. It's been pretty much the same for the past week on those pairs, and they've been the best trading pairs. As I said, you can sort of mess around. Now, I still think, today is all about sterling. Okay, currently, to me, the fundamental backdrop of the economy is strong. Technically now, with this move up, we've got a sideways, on the weekly, sterling's going down, daily's a little bit sideways, and hourly's up. Now, we have a potential change here. This is what you should be focusing on, this pair here, because we do have the central bank meeting. Now, there's no change in rates expected, so it's really going to come down to the statement. We've got the rate, the vote count, the statement, the summary, and then you've got Carney afterwards. I think it's about 45 minutes afterwards speaking as well. Now, this is all sterling, right? Brexit has not been confirmed, so I can't imagine they're going to get too overly excited about what they're going to do at this stage. Once the Brexit deal is done, then the Bank of England can get on with sort of managing the economy. At this stage, they're sort of managing sort of the outcomes of what happens with Brexit. And with no certainty there, it's a little bit tricky. And then you've got the ISM manufacturing numbers after that. That's all we've got to focus on, right? So you don't have too much to worry about at this stage. As far as the trade setup, geopolitics, yeah, definitely with sterling, obviously impacting. And with that major data coming out in sterling, just be aware that, it's not going to be that easy to try and work out what Carney's saying. I think he's got to be referring to the strong inflation numbers, the strong average earnings, and then be negative or more concerned about potential impact of a no Brexit or a deal or no deal, even though it looks like we get these random news reports saying that they're actually done, but they're not actually done, if you know what I mean. So it's very frustrating. So make sure you just keep an eye on that as we go forward. And just looking at the overall news, I mean, it's pretty easy to follow. As I said, it's quite comical, the whole Brexit issue, and I thought I was being quite clever trying to sneak in a trade there, but got a little bit flushed out. And outside of that, well, there's not much other news. I mean, Trump obviously still in the news. There's the news services are struggling to get news. They're now starting to sort of talk about Bitcoin, Argentina, dollar CAD 7-week low as commodities linked currencies retreat. Well, that's not true because Aussie and Kiwi are higher. So how can that be true to that sort of nature? All right, so that's pretty much it, guys. There's a fair bit on the table. The main thing with the Bank of England is they do have a chance to potentially alter the flow of things. I think it's a little bit hard to think they'll do it outside of Brexit, knowing what's going to happen there. But keep an eye on that very closely. And for the US dollar, during that North American session, in particular, ISM manufacturing numbers, the market's gagging for US numbers at the moment. So keep an eye on these US numbers. As I mentioned before, if you have a look, if you come back to the US dollar, let me just clear that. We do have a situation where the US dollar index is, and this is obviously going to be under pressure with sterling and the euro rallying, but under 96.80, we might see a bit of a flush out if those ISM manufacturing numbers are weak. Now, it's a little bit oversold, but don't worry. When there's fresh economic data, I wouldn't be worrying about stochastics because that can change very quickly. And that's pretty much it, guys. Back on the airwaves. We'll tune you up as we go forward and keep focusing on the major issues coming out. Now, don't forget, there are if you're looking to trade the Bank of England, you've got the vote count, you've got the bank rate, you've also got, obviously, the speech and statement, the press conference and the statement as well. So there's loads of stuff coming out in sterling. It's not an easy event to trade, but make sure you are focusing very closely on your technical levels because that's where traders will be starting to hit the market. And with sterling above the market, you're probably looking towards some of the other sterling crosses for that matter. All right, guys, that's it from me. We'll see you in the live trade zone. All the very best.